Hello, everybody. Today I will explain you teaching pronunciation, the ways of pronunciation, why it's so important to improving our English language in this. I am a Saltanat. I am a senior teacher in the Central Asian Innovation University, Department of Language and Literature. Let's go. In this video, you can see the ways, what is the pronunciation and how can you improve our pronunciations, and the ways of the correctly pronunciations. Okay, so how do you think what is the pronunciation? Is the production of significant sound, significant because it is used as a part of code, a particular language. It is used to achieve meaning, context of use. Just you can see if you pronounce the one word incorrectly, just native speakers or just someone will not just understand you. That's why we should pronounce each word incorrectly. So there we can see the two ways of phonetics. The first here in pronunciation, the first auditory phonetics and articulatory phonetics. Auditory phonetics is the perception of the sound, and the articulatory phonetics, the production of the sound. Next, is there correct pronunciation? Correct pronunciation, just you can say that in English and in America has own pronunciation in speaking English. The speech is a word, just yeah. So for example, just in one word, if you incorrectly pronounce one word, it gives just other meaning. For example, just present, just we can see, yeah, it hasn't any difference. It will be a verb or just a noun. Insisting on correct pronunciation may not always be desirable, just and it may not be feasible either. Just the irrelevant question to ask is not what is correct in relation to native speaker norm, but what is appropriate and necessary to be able to communicate in specific situation. If you incorrectly pronounce one word, we can communicate with the others because they don't understand it. Our pronunciation. The task of pronunciation teaching, as in the teaching of any other aspects of language, is to establish models of guidance, not norms of imitations. Okay, selection, size of units, sound segments, and the prosodic units, focus of attention, for example, level 1 interference, level 2 communicative value, frequency, and functional importance. Presentation, exposure, just exposure procedures, communicative tasks with the explicit teaching of pronunciation, exercise procedures, just identification of sound features, practice and perception and production, explanation procedures, sensitizing and awareness raising activities about phonetic and phonological facts. So here just you can see for example, just communicative tasks. If you here also communicative tasks with an explicit teaching or pronunciation, just how to say, the communication also plays a big role to pronounce your English very good. Next, doing the exercises and for example, to sound your correctly in the letters. Just it's or just practice your English, just or your practice letters, you also correctly pronounce, yeah. And so explanation also is raising your activities about phonetics, for example, phonological facts. Next, teachability and learnability. There is an inverse relationship between the communicative importance and teachability. Teachability sound segments, for example, easy to teach, communicatively important. Intonation is to teach, communicative plus the important, for example, sound segments or the intonation to teach how to sound the letters, how to give the intonation of the word. Yeah, so we can see. So sounds also a place just in plays a big role in phonetics, just learning the words or learning correctly the pronounce the word. Just also ear training, awareness building. For example, listening the word. Listening word the word, we can correct our pronunciation, or we can correctly pronounce the words. Yeah. So before learners can be asked to produce the sounds of a new language, they need to learn and perceive them. So one of the first objectives of pronunciation teaching is to help learners perceive the differences between these significant sounds of English. So, or just native speakers, just you can see the pronounctions between the American and the English speakers. Also important, we tend to hear the sounds of a new language through the filter of our first language. It is here just, of course, for example, to hear the sounds of new language, we can we will try to correctly pronounce your new language, for example, not as in English, as in Kazakh, or as in Russian way. For example, just book, book. We can't say any just okay, not only book, yeah, put. For example, just or also try to pronounce it correctly, not as a Kazakh language, book. It hasn't any intonation, it hasn't just you can see that it hasn't any intonation or just pronunciations. That's why we'll try to correct it importantly. Next, sounds communicative and noticing. It will be foreign language learning, comprehensively input, comprehensible output, the need of reconciling of narrow focus on of sounds with the communicative objects of learner involvement and a meaningful interaction. Here, and also sorry, just presentation, sounds communicative. Ear training, communicative noticing. Next, two aspects, paradox. Intonation just also plays so important role. Just it's also, we should put the intonation correctly. The word, for example, paradox, a decisive element of communication, but a continuous prevalent pronunciation teaching. Yeah, just we should correctly put our syllable in the word. To the word, sorry. Topics, provenance of combination of loudness, length, paralinguistic features, and above all, pitches movement. In you so information given for information, for example, fall, rise, or given in for a fall, or the low rise, for example. What's your name? Just you can put the question. For example, it's an easy example for you. So what's your name? What's your name? Just you can say not what's your name. So just we can raise our intonation or the full intonation, and that's why we can show our emotion for us, and not on maybe sometimes we will be so happy and our intonation will be in full rise. Just we haven't any mood, we can put the intonation in raise rise. So next, so stress, it has two aspects of stress. That word stress patterns important for intelligibility, and the prominence important of communication. And procedures, just the impossibility of providing rules, the contrast between stressed and unstressed syllables. For example, stressed and unstressed, we should know that between the unstressed and stressed syllables, or a ground or backgrounding. So okay, and the next, connected speech. That is a steady process of connected speech, a simulation of changes over sound provoked by the surrounding sounds, illusions, the leaving out of sound or sounds in speech, linking the insertion of a sound in order to make a smooth translation from one sound to another, modeling and numeracy. Also, I think you will get some information about the teaching pronunciation, how to teach our students to pronounce correctly the word. Just I'll try to explain you the ways of pronunciation correctly to the word, and I think it's also a place not important player. We can't say important play. If you don't correctly pronounce one word, then someone, just I have said about it, will not understand you. Okay, thank you very much, student. Thank you, students. I think it was interesting for you. You can see my other videos in the teaching pronunciation in these methods of foreign language teaching on the videos. You can take it from the library in our university. Thank you. Goodbye.